The bar was set very high with Tat's work, so I didn't want to fall short, and I wanted to bring what interests me, and I wanted to have a lot of fun this year.
The Leda side has this complex nature-nurture experiment where they're purposely delineated within the experiment and given very different upbringings to see how they'll turn out. Whereas Castor, clumped all together under a military-type environment.
They were all raised as soldiers.
They're all raised as soldiers with a common purpose. So they have even though there's fractures within that, there's less distinct differences between them.
Is Castor dysfunctional? Like any family, I think there's crazy dynamics, but no, they're military. They've got each other's back, and they're very much a tight-knit group of kids.
Mark might be the older brother, but he's sort of a gentler, more almost naive version.
There's in-town Mark, and then there's on the farm Mark. And in-town Mark was the military side of him, but I think the audience and the fans got to see mostly farm Mark.
Then it's to create a character that kind of plays opposite to Mark. So then we spent a lot of time talking about this new character of Rudy.
Just trying to figure out his psyche and where he's coming from, and what's playfulness, what's real, and what's off kilter.
Rudy's just a bit of a psychopath, right? And he's Rudy is very charismatic and very outgoing and very dangerous and crafty. And Mark's a little more, he's capable, but he's got a little bit more of his heart on his sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you see him with Rudy, and it's a whole new dynamic, like the hierarchy. They're in the military, so who pulls rank on who, right?
And he's a little bit more of a reluctant soldier. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I said the right thing, right?
He found love.
Found love.
And then you have Miller, and what's his motivation, and then you have Seth, and what's his motivation, and just the relationships between each other.
There's a few other Castor clones that he plays in there. They're all just kind of like variations on the theme, but those are the two main dudes.
These men were raised together. They're not raised in different countries as the female clones are, so the accents, you don't have accents to rely on, and that's not to take away from Tatiana. That's a very difficult thing to do, but I think in Ari's case, he's not able to differentiate that way. So while he was working on his process, and that's private, I don't know what that is, we were trying to figure out how to differentiate them physically.
Mohawks help, scars help.
The scar is cool. I like that. Now that, I should say, that idea came from John and Ari together. I was present at the meeting, and I thought a scar could be a cool thing. I had talked at one point about a clone who had perhaps been bottled, with a beer bottle and ground into the eye. That was one. So he does have a remnant of that sort of thing, but they decided they wanted something that will really stand out, really differentiate Rudy very quickly visually.
I sit in the chair, you put the scar on, you put the wig on, you have the clothes, and then I just sort of look at myself in the mirror, and that's sort of how I find it.
In terms of makeup, it's fairly subtle. Fairly subtle distinctions. I think, again, with women, they're using cosmetics. They can express themselves through cosmetics, and they do. But we don't have that option with men, so it was, in fact, it's tougher. In fact, I would say it's harder. They have to be small things that differentiate the men.
Some days it might take longer to do the switch mentally, and some days not at all. It's really easy. Thankfully, I have our script supervisor is very good at saying, Ari, you're too much Rudy right now. I need more Mark.
Watching him differentiate the clones in a very subtle way that's not based on necessarily where they come from or what their accent is, but small little shifts of character.
Miller has a fake leg, so there was a process of, finding a very minimal limp. Rudy has a real swagger. Seth, I really like Seth. I wish I got to do more with Seth. There was just a real innocence and a dumbness to him and a goofiness that I really had a lot of fun playing. I knew Nick before. Him and I were at Ryerson Theatre School together, and he was actually my first choice to do this. I asked him if he wanted to do it, and he was like, yeah, for sure. Actually, the great thing about that is my fiance, Cassandra, if she sees him from behind, she thinks it's me.
People get us confused. Our friends get us confused. Mostly from the back. I don't know how similar we look from the front, but the back people, yeah, mix us up.
And there's all the technical stuff, which is impossible to wrap your head around, acting to tennis balls and earbuds and whatnot.
Some maggots are flies. No fly is welcome. Conclusion, no maggots are welcome.
False.
I thought it was a really, really cool scene. And it's the first, really intricate clone scene that I've shot with the Techno Dolly, our lovely $3 million temperamental camera.
You have to wait for the camera to hit a certain mark before you can turn that way. And there were a lot of specifications.
We'd created this one shot where we start on one clone, or the two clones rather, one of them was being interviewed in this Void Kampf Blade Runner-esque style fashion, and we were pulling around through the back of Paul's head, and we come out the other side, and it's the other clone, and it's a bit of a switcheroo. And for whatever reason, just that particular angle that the camera got to started creating this really complex mathematical error.
Ah, yes. The day the Techno Dolly died.
The camera just started this low frequency shudder throughout it, and we couldn't figure out what it was, so we ended up having to pack it in.
Apparently had been doing that a lot, but this time it was down. They couldn't get it back up for the day, so they had to reschedule a day.
Yeah, had to do that twice, basically, that scene.
We literally did about 1,000 takes of this scene.
Generally, when you're shooting a scene, you shoot the master, and then you come in for coverage. But it became very apparent, because the Techno Dolly was going to be the master, that it wasn't going to cooperate. So we shot all of our coverage that day, and then a month later, we came back with a new Techno Dolly that worked, and we shot the master. So we kind of did everything in reverse, but not as hard as I thought it was going to be.
It's been awesome watching Ari do scenes and look sort of effortless in clone scenes, which I definitely did not feel effortless when we started doing them. It was all panic and terror, so kudos to him for not having that fear in his eyes.
Everything about this show is atypical, so I've come to expect the unexpected.